You're listening to the audiobook version of The Life of Us We Can't Get Back by Love Kurt on Tumblr and AO3. Warnings for this chapter. None that I could really think of at the moment, but just be sure to listen to or read This Is Me Trying first, because the context of this story relies heavily upon the plot of that one. 1. My father's attitude was that this was but an inevitable phase of my growing up, and he affected to take it lightly. But beneath his jocular boys-together air, he was at a loss. He was frightened. Perhaps he had supposed that my growing up would bring us closer together, whereas now that he was trying to find out something about me, I was in full flight from him. I did not want him to know me. I did not want anyone to know me. And then, again, I was undergoing with my father what the very young inevitably undergo with their elders. I was beginning to judge him. And the very harshness of this judgment, which broke my heart, revealed, though I could not have said it then, how much I had loved him. How that love, along with my innocence, was dying. The screams of the tea kettle startled Mike out of his place in Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. He hadn't gotten very far. He was only on page 16, but was already beginning to relate to the tortured yet compelling musings of the protagonist, David. He had already found and ended things with his Hella, multiple Hellas, and his Giovanni was out, working at the local coffee shop. The coffee shop where he still worked with his ex-boyfriend, Matt Winters. According to Will, their most recent breakup was mutual, but they were still friendly with one another, which, if Mike was being totally honest, bothered him just a little bit. Although, he'd be a total hypocrite if he were to ask Will to distance himself from Matt, because Mike still considered Wyatt Bowman to be one of his best friends. In fact, he was the first person Mike called when he and Will got together. He was pretty sure he'd called Wyatt from the foot of the bed, being sure to whisper the news quietly while Will slept. The tea kettle obviously wasn't going to stop on its own, so Mike stuck the dilapidated post-it with Will's phone number and Joyce's handwriting on the page he was reading and sat up from his position on the couch. He shuffled over to the stove on the balls of his fuzzy sock-covered feet. Mike wasn't actually sure if the fuzzy socks he wore belonged to him or to Will, and removed the pot from the scorching surface. He grabbed a mug and a tea bag from the cupboard he'd grown to become quite familiar with over the past week, dunking it in a few times in hopes that the tea would steep. He got a spoon from the drawer beside him and pushed the bag against the edge of the mug. Everything was moving at either turtle or lightning speed these days. Mike could blame himself for that. He made the decision to drive to Chicago in seconds. He and Will reconciled and proceeded to have sex multiple times within the span of an hour of arriving at his house. And now, Mike was getting unnecessarily worked up over making his tea steep faster. Why the hell was he so anxious all of a sudden? Mike knew damn well where his anxiety had come from. He'd been procrastinating calling his mother for days. He'd promised to let her know about his plans for Christmas, but never gathered enough courage to pick up the phone. For all he knew, she'd been calling his apartment back in Indianapolis the whole time he'd been gone. But Mike knew calling her would come with a plethora of problems. The first one being having to break the news that he'd failed out of college. The second one took root in the fact that he was currently staying in a different apartment, different from the one his dad had been shelling out money towards, not to mention an entirely different state, and with Will. And the third problem was that Will and Mike were dating now, so he wasn't sure if Christmas was even on the table. Of course, Will had been pushing Mike to call Karen all week, claiming that she would probably understand Mike's multi-layered problems to an extent, but he knew, and told Will so, that their mothers were very different people, and that she wouldn't understand. Not on the level that Joyce probably would, anyway. Mike checked the wall clock, reading 6:24 p.m. Will was due to come home around 6:30, which was when the two of them had planned to start packing their things to return to Hawkins. And that probably meant Will would bug Mike about calling his mom again, so time to bite the bullet. He headed into Will's, Mike was still getting used to saying it, room, and sat down on the edge of the bed, glancing over at the nightstand. There it was. The phone, TM. The phone that Will used when They were fine now. Mike was quite literally living with Will at the moment. Everything was great. So why did his heart pang with sadness every time he looked in the direction of Will's phone? Mike decided he couldn't think about this. Not right now. He leaned over to pick up the phone, placing it next to him on the bed and dialing his parents' phone number. The line picked up within 2 rings. Classic. Wheeler Residence, this is Karen, Mike heard his mom say in her usual cheerful tone, and he sucked in a breath. Hey, Mom. He eventually exhaled. his shaky fingertips finding the cord on impulse and fiddling with the spirals. "Michael? Is that you?" She sounded surprised. Shocked, even. Mike's heart sank with guilt. Yeah, it's me." "Gosh, honey, I haven't heard from you in so long!" "I'm sorry." "Don't be, I know you're busy. How are you?" How was he? That was a simple question with a very complicated answer. He'd been doing better than he had in the past year and a half, and it was all because Will loved him. But he couldn't tell her that. Not over the phone. "Good, I'm good," Mike kept it vague. "I just wanted to check in and let you know that I'm still alive and all. After driving drunk across state lines and having a near-death experience involving a tractor-trailer and should I stay or should I go by the Clash, well, that's a relief. We've all been worried about you." Meaning she was worried about him. Mike wished she didn't feel the need to give him hope that his dad might actually care about his well-being. "Are you doing all right in school?" "That's something I wanted to talk about over Christmas, if you'll still have me," Mike replied, his voice trembling a little too much for his liking. Too emotional. "Of course," Karen told him, and he bit his lip to prevent it from quivering. "Michael, you were always welcome back home. I thought you knew that." "No, I know." Mike shook his head, gripping the phone tighter. It's a long story. But I was also wondering if I could bring a guest this year?" There, he said it. Kind of. "A guest?" He could hear the excitement creep into her voice, and he shut his eyes tightly. "Things must be going really well if you're coming home with a girlfriend." Girlfriend. Fuck. Yeah, it's going great." Mike suddenly wanted this conversation to be over and done with so he could let the guilt eat him alive in peace. So I'll see you on," he trailed off. "You can come home as early as you want and stay for as long as you need," she told him. "Believe it or not, we actually miss you around here. It's quiet." "Thanks, Mom," he said. "I miss you too. So, is tomorrow okay? Me and... Fuck. Mike forgot it was Will he was bringing home with him. Think fast, Wheeler. We wanted to make the drive a little earlier before the real holiday traffic hits." "Whatever works best for you, hun. I've got to head to book club, but please tell Mystery Girl that we can't wait to meet her." "Right. Mystery Girl. Mystery Will. Jesus Christ, this was going to end horribly, wasn't it?" "Okay. See you soon then. Love you." "I love you too, Michael," Karen said softly, and Mike knew that she really meant it. "Bye. Was that who I think it was?" Mike heard from behind him, and he turned to see Will standing in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee in his hands. Bless him. Mike set the phone back on the surface of the nightstand and shifted over a bit, patting the space next to him. Will smiled, taking a few steps across the room and set the coffees down next to the phone. Will turned so he could hold Mike's face in his hands, his thumbs running against his cheekbones. Mike cast his gaze off to the side as he muttered, "If you mean my mother, then yeah." Will sat next to Mike then, a light-hearted laugh leaving his gorgeous mouth. Mike felt a blush rise to his cheeks. His laugh. His fucking laugh. How was he supposed to function when Will laughed like that? And how the hell did he go so long without it? "Really?" Will teased. "You're not messing with me? You actually took my suggestion for once?" Mike smirked, reaching up to brush a piece of overgrown hair out of his boyfriend's eyes. "Don't let it get to your head, Byers. I called her and told her we're coming for Christmas." Will's eyes went wide at that. "Wait, you talked about me?" "Well, no," Mike admitted. "I wanted to." He reached out to hold Will's hand in a feeble attempt to convince him that he wasn't being a coward, that he was just fucking terrified of the idea of coming out to his parents. "Believe me, love, I wanted to. But I couldn't. I just told her I was bringing someone home." He looked down at the ground, unable to bring himself to look at Will. "I totally understand. It's a big step," Will exclaimed, bringing a hand up to Mike's jaw and lifting his face up so their eyes met. "Come here." Will wrapped an arm around Mike's waist and pulled him close, and Mike let out a deep sigh as he leaned into Will's touch, bending his torso at a strange angle in order for his head to meet Will's shoulder. Uncomfortable, but did the job. "It's going to work out," Will reassured him. "Whatever happens, I'll be here. To pick up the pieces after everything goes to shit," Mike said under his breath, and he felt Will's hand begin to rub slow circles up and down his back. "Don't think like that, baby. You're gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay." "I don't deserve you, Will," Mike sighed, and he felt the low rumble of Will's voice in his chest as he disagreed. This had become a common occurrence throughout the past week. He'd tell Will that he didn't deserve him, and he'd remind Mike. Yes, you do. God. Mike rubbed his palms against his face in frustration. What's gonna happen when they open the door and see us together? What are they gonna think? Or what if I don't know, chicken out and make up some elaborate lie like trying to bring back our Christmaka tradition or some shit? You wouldn't be wrong, I've kinda missed Christmaka, Will chuckled. Mike silently envied his optimism. He wished it was that easy. Me too. Will grabbed Mike's hand then, interlacing their fingers, and it suddenly felt like the world wasn't going to implode. We'll have to make up for lost time. Mike nodded, gulping far too loudly. Yeah. A beat of silence followed. Mike's eyes trailed up from their joined hands to Will's lips. Will's lips that were saying all the right things. The lips that were actively talking Mike off the ledge. The lips that Mike wanted to kiss right off his perfect face. Hey, Will? Yeah, Mike. Kiss me? And he did. Will did kiss him. In an instant, all of Mike's worries floated into the recesses of his mind to be dealt with later. He busied himself with the feeling of Will's lips coaxing his mouth open, falling down onto the mattress, and letting his boyfriend hold him, take him apart, and put him back together, piece by piece. You've been listening to the audiobook version of The Life of Us We Can't Get Back by Love Kurt on Tumblr and AO3. Stay tuned for part 2.